Hi, in this video, we'd like to talk about static methods. Now, I hope you remember that class attributes can also be referred to as static attributes. So class attributes and static attributes, they are the same. A static method, however, is different from class method. And this is actually a fairly unique thing to Python. Um, in other languages like C++ and Java, um, the class methods are really they are more commonly referred to as static methods. So they're really the same in other languages, but in Python, these two things are different. So how are they different? Well, the main difference is the static methods does not get the class as its first parameter. Okay, and honestly, I have an example here. It's a little contrived, but let's just use it to illustrate static methods. So what I want to do, what this example is going to do is, so remember in our setter for the make, we actually do this check here. If make is not a Honda or Tesla, then we return false, at least in our little example. So instead of doing that check, what I want to check is just I want to make sure make is a string, right? That is not a number, is not a I don't know a boolean or whatever. Okay, let me write the static method to do that first. So to write a static method, we start with the decorator static method. Okay, and I'm gonna write a method called check type, and I just want to check the type of a particular name. And I want to make sure the name is a string. So I want to say type of the name is a string. Okay, so if the type of the name is string, then this will return true. Otherwise, it returns false. Right. So that's a static method. So like what this slide is showing, static method, you start with the static method decorator, and it does not get any automatic first parameters, unlike class method, which gets the class as its first parameter, or the instance method, which gets the instance as its first parameter. Okay, static method does not get any automatic first parameters. Okay, and the way to use it is, let me go back to, where's my set make? Set make. Okay, so if I'm going to call the static method. Now, static method, because it's defined as part of a class, I'm going to start with the class, and then I'm going to say check type. I'm going to make sure make is a string. Okay, so if it's not true, then I return false. Okay, oops. I guess I have a typo in the slides. I'll fix that. Okay. Um, Now let's make sure. Ooh, okay. How's this gonna work? Right. So if I make a car, now this should still work, right? And then if I make another car, car 3 equal to car, I'm gonna change the make to a number, and then this doesn't matter, and whatever. Okay. So and when I print that out, car 3. Okay. So we know 3 is not a string, and that's why this setter will fail, and then the make attribute gets the default make, which is unknown. Okay, so and that's all because we use the static method to check that the make is a string. Okay, so in that way, a static method is kind of a halfway between a class method and actually a function, right? A function, as we learned a couple weeks ago, it's just a global function. It has all the parameter that you explicitly define, right? So now this function, though, a static method, is a function that is part of a class. And to invoke it, like we just saw, we use the class name dot the static method. Like we saw with calling the class methods, we can also invoke it through the instance. So we can also say self and then the name of the static method. Okay, it works the same. So again, the way it works is, yeah, it tries to look up an instance method, doesn't find it, go up to the class and finds static method check type there in the class. Okay, so we can do that as well. Can static method access instance attributes or call instance methods? Well, should be obvious that the answer is no, right? It's just for the same reason that class methods do not have access to instance attributes or cannot call instance methods. What about this? Can static methods access class attributes or call class methods? Well, the answer is no, it should not, because static methods they do not have class as the first parameter, right? However, technically it can, because it can really just use the name of the class, right? It can do that class dot and then the class methods or class attributes. However, if you find yourself doing that, if a static method somehow needs access to the class, then that static method really should not be a class method. I mean, it should not be a static method. It really should be a class method, right? Why do we want to use static methods? Even though, like I said, the example that I came up with was a little contrived. They are useful for writing what we call utility functions that belong to a particular class or should be grouped together. Okay, and so these static methods or well, they are functions, they're utility functions. So static methods should not need access or do not need access to any instance attributes or class attributes, obviously, because they cannot anyway. So the thing that they can do, they should do what they have to do solely based on its parameters, right? The information that it gets when the caller calls them. So that's what static methods are used for. And we might do an assignment with using static methods. We'll see in a couple weeks. Okay, so this is a summary of attributes and methods. We actually talked about quite a few of them, and if you actually create a matrix of them, it actually gets quite complicated. So I'm trying to summarize everything in this table and next. So the way to read this table is, okay, for instance attributes, how do we access them from outside the class? Well, instance.attribute, right? There shouldn't be any surprise. How do we access instance attribute from instance methods? Well, self.attributes, right? We've seen that quite many times already. Can we access instance attributes from class methods? The answer is no. As we already talked about, to access instance attribute, we need an instance, and class methods do not have instance. Can instance attributes be accessed from static methods? Again, no. Okay, so what about class attributes? If you want to access class attributes from outside the class, we can do class.attribute. We can also do instance.attribute. Okay, but that's only for read. Okay, and to access class attributes from instance methods, we can again do class.attribute, or we can, for read, do self.attribute. If we want to access class attributes from class methods, well, we do the CLS.attribute, because the class method has a class as the first attribute, as the first parameter. And then finally, if static methods should not have access to class attributes. If you somehow find yourself that that the static method needs access to class attributes, then that method really should be a class method, not a static method. Okay. Now, and this is the second table that talks about the relationship between methods and other methods. So I'm just going to go through the first line. There's too many things to go through. You can read the rest of it. Now the first line is, okay, so for instance method, if we want to call the instance method from outside the class, well, we need an instance and then the dot method, right? When instance method want to call other instance methods, then we do self dot the other methods. And if the instance method wants to call other class methods, then we can either do class.method, name of the class method, or we can do self, right? Self.name of the class method. And finally, the same thing for static method. And then hopefully the other two rows, they all make sense. It's something that we already talked about. But I'm just summarizing them here. And if you happen to find any mistakes here, please do let me know, although I think they are all correct.